why am I doing this? You really feel as though you're banging your head against a brick wall. There's certainly been times, but I've had some I've had some ups and downs like anyone in business. We did a bit of high-end residential renovations. I thought that I'd take my fixed price model from commercial work over to this residential style work. Some new builds, some really nice big renos. I knew the pitfalls of other people, the emotions involved, I knew them all, but still did it anyway. Had some big financial lessons from that.
Hamish, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I want to talk a little bit about your business. I want to talk a bit about, because you've built like a really solid business over the last, 15 odd years, but I want to hear about you first. Tell me a bit about you. Where did you grow up? Did you grow up around Auckland or a small town or what?
I grew up in Hawke's Bay, very small towns.
Cool. Love Hawke's Bay.
Yeah, very nice. And moved to Tapo as a teenager. Got a little bit colder there. Did a building apprenticeship there. Got a bad back, like a lot of people do, but a lot of builders do. I was only 21 at the time. So I had a physio say to me, if you keep building, you're going to be crippled by the time you're 40. So
Wow.
Finished that apprenticeship with a little bit of pain.
What was the back issue?
Oh, just a sciatic nerve right down the leg. Spent a year with one of those back braces, which is all really just a massive piece of elastic, pulling your tummy in. The day that apprenticeship got signed off was the day I moved to Wellington to study.
Oh, so wow. So you're like, the game's
off
over.
The tools, yeah.
Yeah.
Straight to university to study quantity surveying. Yeah. And that was how I ended up with an office job, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was, let's go backwards a bit more. So what did your parents do?
My father was a farm merchandise salesman. So all those small towns always had a lot of farmers that needed stuff. So did a lot of trips with him and holidays to farms. Had an uncle that had a dairy farm. So I was sent there regularly in the holidays to keep me busy.
Cool.
My dad was very handy. He could fix anything. Didn't have a builder in the house until I was a teenager, and we had a bathroom that was rotten that he just couldn't tackle that. So he had to pay someone. My grandfather was a blocklayer and bricklayer. So he was always sort of helping us out at home doing the bits and pieces he could.
Cool. So you were kind of surrounded by manly men that can do stuff.
Do stuff, yeah. They could do stuff, yeah.
And
a bit of the cliche of refusing to get someone to help them until they had to.
Yeah. How about mum? Was she stay at home?
Mum was pretty much stay at home. Yep. She
Cool.
did. She looked after us. I had two sisters, so I was stuck in the middle.
Oh, in the middle of the two?
Yep. So that was an interesting upbringing. I think that in my adult life, I look back on that reflection of being in the middle of two ladies. Yeah.
What impact does that have? Because I've got three girls and a boy at the end. And I always wonder if is he going to be soft? Are we going to have to like harden him up or something? Like,
yeah, I could see that, but I think the important thing that I've taken away as an adult, it makes you a peacekeeper. It makes you wanting to avoid conflict.
Right. And that's a good thing and a bad thing at times, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Some people from the outside probably think, oh, you should have fought harder. You've given in. But in the end, I think it's just in your nature. You're like, no, we need to do this way to make me feel at peace.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So grew up in a small regional town. So Hawke's Bay is cool. Like we got some clients in the Hawke's Bay, and it's a cool spot. And so you got your family there, and then you obviously like moved to Tauranga. Was that like going into a bigger town, or was Tauranga pretty small back then still?
Oh, Tapo.
Tapo, sorry.
Sorry, yeah. Tapo was a very small town.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Of course,
yeah, that's a very good point. Actually, I did my apprenticeship with four guys I went to school with at different companies. We were all at different companies, and we would have been the only four carpentry apprentices in Tapo in the very early 90s.
Wow.
Yeah, really interesting to think about Tapo now. How many builders there are, how much growth it's had. So yeah, still a small town.
Yeah. And what was that like the first day you walked onto the site as an apprentice? Were you like confident? Were you like shooting bricks? Like, what was the situation?
I was probably in between. I did have a think about that day actually recently, and as most apprentices, I was digging some foundations, and I'll never forget one of the older tradesmen said to the boss, oh, Hamish just dug the footings too wide. You know, he said, I remember him saying, you know, concrete's $160 a metre. And then I'm sort of standing there. I was obviously quite good at maths. And I'm going, that's really expensive. I've made this footing a bit wider. That's going to take a lot more concrete. And then the conversation sort of came back up at Smoker and turned out that the 160 a metre was actually per cube, not per lineal. I was sort of looking at the footing going, this is getting expensive.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, if we're dividing 160 by a cubic metre, it's probably not that bad.
Yeah. So you kind of, so you were right.
Yeah, I was not too right to not be too worried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you started all right thinking in that way already. And obviously, that's where the QS thing comes in later on, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it came natural to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you worked there a bit, and then you hurt your back. I kind of hurt my back a while ago as well. And so, when you do the, is it like a nerve? Does it just hit the nerve the whole time and then shoots the pain down your leg?
Shoots the pain down the leg and you limp, and people say, "What's wrong with your leg?" And you go, "Oh, it's actually my back." Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, is it to do with the discs or anything, or what? Is it just like a nerve that hits the side?
Just pinches where your it must be your femur and the back there, just where it touches, and just continuously pinches.
And there's no way of getting you had to get surgery or something? Or?
No. Acupuncture was the only thing that fixed it. I had some of those classic physio things, ultrasound massages, but the acupuncture was the one thing that pretty much fixed it.
Did you do that electronic acupuncture? Have you had that before?
Yeah, where they put the little current on it. Yeah.
That's good, eh?
Yeah, it works. Yeah, and the guy used to give me the dial, so he'd go away and go and do someone else, and I'd just turn it up and turn it down. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that as well, and I find it's good. I might just get rid of like the inflammation or something, in there. Like it just kind of like gets rid of that pain and the tightness.
Yes.
Who do you go with for physio?
Oh, that was in Tapo.
Oh,
so it was a while ago. But I swear by it. And I think the secret to that for me was obviously because it's in my back, I couldn't see the needles. I think I'm not actually scared of needles, but I could see that people would look at those and say, "You're not putting those anywhere near me." If you couldn't see them, I had no idea what it looked like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually need to book another one of those, actually, Dan. You want to write that down? Okay, perfect. So then were you kind of like gutted that you couldn't do that anymore? Or were you just kind of like, oh, well, I could just try something else?
Yeah, no, I probably wasn't too gutted. I felt as though I wanted to sort of keep moving up in the industry.
Yeah. Gave you an opportunity to kind of aim higher almost.
It did. Yeah, it did. And along those lines, similar to the footing story, my last block course as an apprentice was in Wellington. And we had a guy come in, and he was a quantity surveyor. I didn't really know what that was, but he gave us a good chat about he worked for a big company and they were building a bridge, at some stage, and all the guys had built all the formwork for the bridge, in those days, an inch too wide. And of course, same thing. He said, "Do you realise how much concrete that is over the whole length of a bridge?" And that story stuck with me. I was like, I really find that quite interesting.
Yeah.
So he was the one person, I think, I don't remember his name, but he was the one person I thought, right, because there was thoughts of doing drafting. I'd considered doing that. The physio had actually told me, he said, "You won't get paid much doing that." So I think that stuck with me a little bit too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you quite like creative? Do you have like a creative side, or are you kind of like the architecture component? Like what made you want to be a drafty?
Yeah, I love architecture, but I'm not at all creative. So tech drawing was really a thing for me. I like
the technical side of it.
Yeah,
yes.
I like the discipline of drawing straight lines and doing a good job and thinking about detail. I remember that at college even in tech drawing. So considered being an architect. There was some architects in the family. My mother convinced me not to because back in those days in the 90s, her exact words were, "People don't use architects." And that was when they were going out of fashion because you were getting group housing, construction, residential construction was changing. That all those things combined, I think I ended up in the right place.
Yeah, because you do get the because sometimes people don't know is that within an architecture office, right? You do get your technical drawers.
Yep.
And they're the ones that will do the detailing, like this is where it all comes together, those sort of guys. And then they're very technical and they can't design, save their life. Yep. And you've got like the design architects and they can't draw a straight line if they, to help themselves,
exactly
but they're very good at the design element and bring the macro vision together. And so you kind of need a bit of both of those.
You do to get the result the architect wants. He needs that help. Yeah.
My wife's she's an architect and she's more the design one. And sometimes she, obviously you have to do the technical stuff when you're younger and stuff.
Yes.
or like earlier on in your career, and she was so bad at it. Like I think I was better than she was. She doesn't listen to this podcast, so it's all good. It was actually the night I was told this story before though on the pod, but the night before she was going for her registration, I was supposed to help her. She's like, "Can you help me tonight? I need to like do my conversation piece."
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, I'll be back after work, and I'll talk you through it, so you'll be all good. And then after work, one of the guys like, "Oh, should we? Do you want to come for a quick beer?" And I was like, "Yeah, come for a quick beer." Next thing you know, I rock up 3 a.m.
Oh,
I think I threw up at the front of the house and then passed out on the couch. And I just remember like kind of opening one eye in the morning and her being like, "Yeah, thanks," and then just walking out, and she didn't pass.
Oh, she didn't.
So that was all me. But I think the one thing she did pass was like the technical drawings, and actually in hindsight.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Forte, specialist in refined timber surfaces for inside and out. From elegant flooring and paneling to durable cladding and decking, Forte delivers unparalleled performance where it matters most. Their products are crafted to elevate every space, combining natural beauty with technical precision and enduring design with innovation. Discover more at forte.co.nz. Where were we? So you then go down to study quantity surveying, is that right?
In Wellington, yeah.
And then how long does that take?
That took about 3 years at the time. Interestingly enough, I enjoyed working. So about 6-9 months into my first year, I didn't particularly like studying because it's a little bit easy, I guess. There wasn't a lot of challenge in it. So one of the guys in my class, I think, was leaving his job, and he said, "Do you want to come meet my boss?" And I said, "What do you do?" "Oh, we build office interiors." And I thought, "What's that? We only build houses." So I went in there and got a job as a cadet, quantity surveyor and sort of site manager in a very small fit out company. And then just studied part-time. Those guys, that company paid all my fees, which was really nice. That was a big thing back then. And you sort of don't forget those things. I've taken that through to a lot of the cadets I've had in my office. I've said, "I'll do this for you," because, someone did it for me. So yeah, I did office fit out for a couple of years.
Yeah, and what type of projects did you kind of like work on? Were responsible
mainly
for?
Government stuff in Wellington, big stuff, little stuff, little bit of seismic back then, seismic upgrades of buildings. That wasn't a big thing, but it was just starting to come in. So yeah, it was really interesting, and I learnt the basics of it, how fast paced it is. You get a lot of reward really quickly because you there's a lot of time pressure. Learn a lot about quality. That's just as important. So you've got to meld all those things together really in that part of the industry. Had a really good teacher. He was boss. He was really passionate about it. He was passionate about business. It was only a small company. He ended up starting a company, and I went with him early on, and after about 2 years, I think. So he, by osmosis, I probably learnt a lot about business that he didn't take the time to teach me those things, but I was learning them by being in a small organisation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were some of those things that you learned early on that you sort of took into your early days?
Cash flow, strategy around tendering, competitive market, that industry. So he was pretty good at doing the right thing, which I think was instilled with me earlier, and he sort of brought that out. Helping subcontractors, being helpful, putting if clients ask for something, you just do it because you've been given the opportunity to do the job, and you just sort of go through it and do it properly. Yeah.
Take on small jobs and they lead to bigger jobs and those sort of things.
A lot of that. Yeah. And we still do that now.
How important is like speed in the fit out game? Because like obviously the reason you can make such good money, right, is because you're turning something around really fast, right? Because you can you build a house, you can make like $1 million, but you could do like $1 million fit out, and you can do that in like half the time or whatever. I'm just throwing numbers out there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so how important is that, like efficiency side?
Extremely important. Which was interesting because when I was thinking about being a guest here, I learnt, I missed a bit of my early career. As I finished high school, I did 2 or 3 years at McDonald's, and a couple of things happened there. That the owner was the first female McDonald's owner in New Zealand, and her husband worked in the business as one of the managers in the store, and he owned a construction company. I'm not sure how he ran it. He hadn't worked at McDonald's, but he did.
Maybe the systems.
The systems, the efficiency, it's not zero waste, but just, a lot of, if you have a system and you communicate clearly. I'll never forget my first day when the person training us says, when I yell out 6 Big Macs, you've got to yell back to me 6 Big Macs. And you kind of, as a teenager, you're like, that doesn't make sense. And then they sort of come over and they say, yeah, because if you repeat it back to me, I know you've heard it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that makes sense. So even just that verbal communication being really clear, yes, I've got it. Yeah. And I sort of took those high standards. My parents owned a cafe at the time. So they ran that cafe really efficiently as well. And so it was easy for me to go around the corner, literally around the corner to McDonald's and do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's great, eh? Because McDonald's, I mean, they're like the poster child for systems and processes. They're like the first one to
absolutely.
the symphony of movement and all that they talk about when you move around like a kitchen and you do things efficiently.
Yeah.
Probably the way that a lot of builders, even the residential space, like set up their sites like in the morning, and like so you're not walking all this
Doing
extra, where your vans park, where the tools are coming from, what are you going to be using, make sure it's close, set out, all that. So I think that's a great first job, eh? Like when I was younger, I didn't want to work at McDonald's for some reason because I didn't want to work at a fast food place, probably like an ego thing, But I did a lot of labor and things like that. But I think that's actually a really great place to start because you can learn those processes and you can kind of see how things operate when it's done well, and it's run by teenagers, so it's
exactly, yeah, and there's a fallback, there's a system. This is how we do it.
Yeah. So how did you then transition into starting did you start have another business before Built, or how did you kind of go from there? Take us through that.
So I went to the UK out of Wellington, did a couple of years there doing some really expensive high-end office fit-outs in the city, which I really loved. Good exposure to big budgets and nice finishes.
How did you get that job? Did you get it before you left?
No, I didn't. A mate was there, and he was doing the exact same thing. We'd done our cadetship together, actually, and he had a contact at a recruiting company. And unlike today, I've heard some recent stories, it's not quite the same, but in 2000, you get a job doing anything in London. We were just lucky that we got a job doing what we already knew.
Yeah.
That was really easy.
Yeah.
And they were happy to have Kiwis. They were reliable. That bit hasn't changed, but the opportunities certainly have. Yeah.
So what's it like now? How's it different now to what it was then?
I think all the industries, even someone telling me last week that you couldn't even, backpacker probably couldn't get a job as a barman in London at the moment.
Really?
There's just no jobs. There's just too many people looking for the work. Yeah.
Because a lot of immigrants moved in.
Yeah, a lot of immigrants and just probably a slower economy, so they've tightened it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so busy those 2 years that I was there. I overheard a conversation on a site one day where one of the site managers was telling a guy that he wasn't doing a very good job of the pipe lagging up in the ceiling, and it sort of must have just carried on the conversation. And it turns out, and he said, "Oh yeah, I was an electrician on the last job."
Yeah,
because there was such a shortage of pipe laggers, and that paid more. So he's like, "I'm a pipe lagger."
Amazing. Yeah, a lot of guests that's come on the podcast did the UK stint.
Yep.
And it seems like a good one. So it's kind of a pity that if it's not the same anymore, for the young guys wanting to go over there, I guess you can get a job, and it's still an opportunity.
Yeah.
I think the UK is going to, unfortunately, I think the UK is going to look a lot different 10 years, 20 years from now than it is now, just because of the change in demographic and just people moving in and pretty much open European borders and things like that, So I think now, probably good idea to go check it out now rather than in 20 years' time, I think.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. We got a few UK listeners that listen to this, yeah.
Oh, cool. I was up there last year for the first time since 2008, and the city that I'd worked in 2000 was completely changed.
In what way?
The high-rises.
Yeah.
When I was there, they had a thing called the St. Paul's Rule, and you couldn't build a building higher than about 8 levels because they wanted a view shaft into St Paul's Cathedral,
Yeah.
but they threw that out the door, and unbelievable, the billions and billions of dollars of 50, 30, 40, 50 level buildings right in the city.
Wow.
Yeah. Just you can just see the money, and it all
Yeah.
had to be fitted out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then did you then come back and
I
start
came
your
back.
own thing?
No, I came back and did a couple of years at Arrow actually.
Cool.
At the most.
Arrow International.
International. Yep. When they were probably in their prime.
Yep.
And then I moved on to a mate's business. He sold aluminium extrusion for the fit out industry, and with that technical sort of skill, I guess we'd call it, I had a real interest in that, and I did a little bit of design, did a little bit of sales for him for a small amount of time. Really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed it, and then had a random call from someone I knew from Wellington. I was in Auckland at this stage. He was starting a business in Auckland, and I knew who he was, but didn't know him. And I just can remember pulling over on the side of the road, shaking, got out of the car. I was like, I'm going to ring this guy. I've got to take an opportunity. I'd been taught a few years earlier to not say no to most things. It have to be absolutely horrible for you to say no to it, whatever it was.
Yep.
So I called this guy and I said, yep, interested? And he said, yep. And then we had a coffee and he said, oh, well, I was sort of after a job really. And he said, oh, well, you want to put some money in and we can go thirds with another guy in my office? And I just straight away at the coffee, yep. Just didn't even hesitate on that opportunity. He was an older, more experienced player in the Wellington market. And we started the Auckland division of that company. That went really well for a couple of years, boom times probably, late 06, 07, during the GFC, so came down a little bit, but we weren't very big, we could survive that. And then, so got through to 2010 and started Built, with another business partner. Got out of the first business and got into Built. Yeah.
Okay, and did you sell out of that or just like
no, that didn't end very well. I walked away from the previous one. Yeah. So that was just left something on the table, probably not a massive amount. Yeah.
And was that just like the business partnership alignment wasn't quite there?
Yeah. There was some. I think with the important part that I take away from that, with that business partner being older and more experienced, still learning, just learned a lot, just as much from him as I would have earned in 2 or 3 years of being a cadet.
Right.
Always taking something away. Perhaps actually interesting enough from that particular partnership, more of not what not to do.
Yeah.
Rather than the earlier, this is how you do it. So that was where that ended.
Yeah. It's kind of like partnership's kind of like a marriage, right?
Yep.
It's a lot more of a commitment than sometimes what we think when we go into it at the start.
Yeah.
We just go, this will be all good.
Yeah.
And what did you what did you take? What was the big takeaway from that you learned that you're like, this is what I shouldn't do this again? Like, what was the biggest takeaway from that part of your?
I think, and that's a good question. Into the next business, I probably took that things should be more equal. Probably workload. Workload. Yeah, the more experienced partner. Yeah, he owned 33% of the business, but he didn't perhaps share the load of the work.
Right. Is that something like is that about like because this is a big thing for young business owners, right?
Yeah.
I've also gone through it.
Yep.
Where you don't separate yourself from the business. Where you have like the business should be its own separate entity.
Yep.
And you are shareholders of the business.
Yes.
And then you also have a job that has a job description within the company that's separate from your share. Did you find that it was like all meshed together, or?
It was a bit meshed together. I was paid a salary to manage the business, but there was just a bit of the more dominant business partner thought that he should have some other things that I wasn't getting it, even, and the third guy who was pretty much solid, he just wasn't getting any of it.
Right.
And I wasn't there to advocate for him, but particularly, but that's right. The unfairness. Yeah.
Okay.
And I can see that, and definitely in partnerships, and definitely heard stories in building partnerships where, hey, everyone ends up on the wrong side of that. I worked more than you worked more than me, you got this, you got that, which perhaps leads on to my next business partner.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to talk about that because obviously you didn't learn from the business. No, I'm just joking. But you obviously love the business partner component.
Yeah.
But they say three's a crowd, whatever that saying is. I always forget that saying.
That's a good
three's
one.
a crowd, right?
Yeah.
Having three business people come together as business partners, isn't it easy for two to team up against one and things like that?
Yeah, that never happened. But yeah, obviously, particularly, could have been a possibility. Interesting enough, in that business partnership, one of the worst things, I guess, at the end is we didn't even have there was so much dominance, perhaps by one partner, that we didn't even have a shareholders agreement.
Okay, so that's a
we're like,
a learning curve.
This someone everyone thought this was all going to work out.
Yeah. So that's what you've learned, is to have a very clear shareholder agreement.
Clear shareholders agreement, absolutely. Yeah.
And with clear outlines of because I mean that's separate, and then you have your roles and your job description, which is separate as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you go into you start build.
Yep.
You go, these have just gone out of a terrible partnership arrangement, and then you jumped like a guy jumping from one girlfriend to another.
That's a good analogy. That's a very good one, actually. Because we've said that a few times, but they are like partnerships or marriages. You're
like, I don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
I don't want to cry by myself for too long. So you just the first girl that came. No, probably not. But I'm just joking here. So how did you find your second?
He was a friend. He was an acquaintance from when I was selling aluminium. He worked at a fit out company, and he decided we should do this. He'd approached me earlier, and I said, no, I'm happy where I am. And then sort of a year later, you're sort of like, well, perhaps I'm not happy where I am. That was let's revisit that.
Yeah.
We started that. We started that on 2 credit cards. Bit of money from his credit card, bit of money from my credit card. Friend of my wife leased us an office, which was nice. We literally walked into that.
Cool.
So we were sort of up and running pretty quickly. Had to think back recently. The first ever job on our job list was a small door magnetic lock at my wife's. She worked for an Australian company. They needed to lock the front door. And I remember going in there and putting the bracket up myself for the mag lock and, paying the security company. And that was a $5,000 job.
Here we go. Off you went.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. We had some contacts. He had some contacts. I think that's always important to start a business. I had some contacts from my old business. We rolled on pretty well. We had some good growth, got 1 staff member, started with a couple of utes, and then got 3 utes and 4 utes, and we rolled on pretty well. Yeah, we didn't have any in-house builders back then. We were just subcontracting all the building. Yeah.
It's is it true to say that fit out business is a very low barrier to entry, and that once you just sort of know how to run a job, you have a couple of contacts, a few subcontractors, bada bing, bada boom, you just whip it together. Is that true, or what's the current state of that?
That certainly was true
back then.
Back then, definitely, there would have been quite a few years through the 2000s where it was just as easy as sort of what I described. It's interesting because you mentioned earlier about insurance. That's a big chunk. I just can't remember how we paid for the first insurance. We must have paid that monthly, which is obviously acceptable. But a lot more systems, a lot more expectation from clients now as to your ability, a lot more, what's the word? I know now,
more astute, not as wild.
Not as wild, yeah. And a lot of people, if you're going for a lot of, I've mentioned government work, they'll start checking balance sheets and things like that. Bit hard to show a robust balance sheet for a company that's been around for a month.
Yeah.
Those barriers have certainly changed. I also remember we both, when we started that business, we both went and bought those utes while we still had our salary jobs. We're like, yep, we can pay for these utes.
Yeah.
So, that probably pretty easy still, but
Yeah.
no.
So you're like, okay, cool. So we're going to buy the utes while we still have income
yep.
so that we can get the loan.
Yep.
And
And
we're
then
going
we're going
to
to
swipe a few credit cards and off we went.
Yep, that's exactly
Okay.
right.
So that's your advice for the young kids?
What's interesting, I heard one of your other guests talk about how he balances cash flow with deposits and things.
Yeah.
And our industry just doesn't have deposits, so we
Right.
don't have to worry about melding,
Yeah.
where's that money come from, where's it going to go, kind of thing.
Right. So how does
so-
the payment work within your industry?
Our payment works just monthly progress claims percentage. So the other important part of that, sorry about that, back to the barriers to entry, credit was easy to get,
Right.
Because
Because that was what? Was that what year was that?
2010.
Okay.
So we would have filled out, obviously, application for credit for suppliers. We would just, and I still do, put a straight line through the personal guarantee.
Great.
And back then it was like, do you want to sell me the stuff or not? Because I'm not signing that. Most people still do that, apart from the big public companies. So now, you sort of jump through a few more hoops, I think, to get that credit, because we rely on that credit, as we touched on what you were saying about how the payment terms work.
Yeah. Cash flow wise.
Cash flow. You rely on that credit. You rely on that good credit rating to be able to get the next credit. I need an account here, so I've got to make sure that when they ring in those people, actually this guy does pay his bills. So that's probably a bit tough for someone who hasn't got a business as well. They've got no history.
Okay, so it was a bit more Wild West back then. Now
Yeah.
it's a little bit more sophisticated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to go back, so you start the business then, a few credit cards, a few loans on some utes, and then you build that up. So talk to me now where you're at now. Like how big is your team? What's an example of sort of the type of projects that you undertake? Who's in the office, who's on site, that sort of thing.
So I've got 5 in the office. I've got 1 QS, 1 project director, 1 project manager, 1 site manager, and a project coordinator who helps us with marketing, admin around projects, and a little bit of office admin. I've got 4 carpenters on site, and I've got 1 specialist petitioner, which is a big part, I believe, in our industry of where the quality comes from. I mean, our industry, generally everything's packaged up. We're one of the outliers. There's a few that still do it where we have some carpenters, or we have 1 petitioner who turns up labour only. We deliver all the materials, we lay it on for him. It's all sitting on saw stools and all the jibs in almost pretty much in the right room where he doesn't have to lift it very far. He gets paid on a piecemeal basis. And that particular person is probably one of the most efficient people I've ever worked with. He'll build, or he'll set out what you were talking about on an office floor, a production line like an aluminium window factory. Like when you go and look at your windows being fabricated, the only thing he hasn't got is a CNC machine. He's just got a chop saw. But that's how he learned.
Yeah.
This is how I make money.
Because he gets paid per
meter,
wall or
per
whatever.
door, per item. Yeah.
And so what's the benefit of having a specialist partitioner?
Well, it keeps the quality really high of that particular part of a fit out. And I'm a big believer, I just talked about in our office, being a builder by trade, you think you're the most important person on site. You're sort of leading the team. Although if you think about what we do by packaging it up, everyone's package is equal to make up the whole. I still think the builder's the leader. And if you can have a person that keeps that quality high, keeps the production high, and keeps the speed going, the other subcontractors tend to follow.
Right.
If
It's
you've
one
got
of those
a guy,
things, they don't listen to you, they watch your staff.
that's a very good point. If they've got a guy, and my particular guy, I'm putting the jib on one side of the walls today, and I'm coming back in 3 days, and I'm putting the jib on, and he is. So that Sparky goes, better get in there, because within reason, if it's not in, we'll just make them poke it down the walls. We don't have nogs. It can physically be done. They just don't like doing it. So that's just follow the leader.
Yeah.
I believe the petitioner is the leader.
Yeah, 100%. It's like I've talked to someone about this the other day. It's like even when new staff come on, subbies, They don't. You could talk to them until you blue in the face. Like they're actually just watching how your staff's doing it, and they'll just copy the work ethic, the level of detail, the level of going the extra mile, or whatever the case may be. Communication and attitude and everything will just be copied.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah.
From the other staff. Okay, so you got a good operation. Why do you have like full-time like carpenters and that on? Is it just about quality control or speed? Why not just sub it out? Because it seems like high risk having that payroll.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we are pretty unique. We've got a client that we do maintenance for, commercial maintenance. So at least one guy's full-time doing that in the city.
Cool.
Anything else that needs to be done in a hurry? We've got those guys. We're controlling the quality of the work they're doing. We're controlling their behaviour on site because a lot of the work is in occupied buildings. And so the subbies I work with are au fait with that kind of work. But if we start bringing in other people that don't know, you've got to lock off a lift. You don't just jam lifts open. You don't drag things through lobbies. Just that.
Yeah, you don't pump loud music.
Exactly, yeah, radio, because it goes straight through the floors.
Yeah.
You're working on this floor. There's a lawyer down there, a lawyer up there. You can hear exactly what's going on the radio. It's all about control, and control leads to less complaints, which leads to a good reputation for doing what clients expect.
Yeah. A quick shout out to Forte supporting today's episode. They work across flooring, wall surfaces, exteriors, and more. But what sets them apart is how their timber performs over time. Forte is trusted by architects, designers, and builders, not just for their materials, but for the way they support projects from vision to completion. It's about enriching connections and creating something built to last. Learn more at forte.co.nz. And so the type of projects that you guys do, I saw on your website, you guys do a lot of big commercial fit outs, also do a lot of cool like retail kind of components. Like give me an example of some of those projects and how's the retail and the commercial kind of different? Because I see a lot of fit out companies either sort of specialize in the retail, which seem to be a bit more like sexy and like new, whatever's the latest, and then visual aesthetic. And then the commercial office, which is something completely different once again. And do you need to is there some nuances and soft skills around those?
Yeah, we started, when we started, we did just as many retail fit outs perhaps as we did office fit outs. And then over time, the shop fitting industry changed and clients' expectations changed on speed. We were used to speed with commercial fit out. What really happened and what I saw is that most of the shop fitting was done by shop fitters that had joinery shops. So they could pump out joinery quickly and to a good standard. We had subcontractors that were making joinery for us, but we didn't own the shop, so we couldn't dictate speed and fitting it into production. We couldn't ask them to push someone else's project aside to put ours in. Whereas if you own the joinery shop, you're like, right, that you can literally shuffle it to suit. Most shop fit outs now are done by the shop fitters that have the joinery shop. We used to think, and it was true, we were still competitive in that space in a tender because we didn't have the overhead of a joinery shop. Yeah. But that has been superseded by the speed now. Yeah. Those guys have melded the overhead of the joinery shop into, we can just deliver your shop quicker. And that's pretty important to a retailer.
Yeah, because the sign goes up. It's like, this will open next month.
Yeah,
you're like,
exactly.
Shit, how's this going to work?
Yeah.
We're still waiting on the joinery.
We're still waiting on the joinery. And I mean, and in that piece, I know a lot of the shops that you'll see mainly in Auckland are all imported joinery now as well. So those guys that market's perhaps gone away, but they're still asked to come and organise and install, and there's still a role for them. Yeah.
So do you guys do no retail or some?
We haven't done retail for a long time. The only retail we've done is the ESOP stores, which are worldwide known to be completely different in every location. Right. So they're a real bespoke. The two that we did, extremely bespoke, which has been a bit of a sort of a specialisation of ours. I mean, no two offices are the same, so it was easy for us to fit that into those. We did Vodafone stores for a while when they were pretty much identical. just your straight shop fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's two different types. Yeah.
And so and then also with like that retail space, it's very design led. It's very aesthetic. It's very Pinteresty, you know, like people kind of like, we like, you know, it can get like pretty crazy, I'd imagine. Like,
Yeah, and it can. First shop I ever did, I also learned the temporary nature of it. You know, I always knew that office fit outs were reasonably temporary, but shop fit outs, you know, especially in malls, those guys are mandated to refit out something like every 5 or 7 years. So you know, if you go down to the deepest, darkest corner of a shop, you'll see a few corners that have been cut, but people don't hang around in shops long enough to see that.
yeah, yeah,
So that was a bit of an eye opener for me. Yeah,
right.
yeah. Once again, that speed piece.
So you guys like the large sort of, obviously small as well, because you'll take on any of those jobs, but you guys like the sort of big office fit outs. And a lot of people are going through fit outs at the moment, like bigger companies, to kind of upgrade and obviously with the new towers going in town.
Yep.
You guys do anything in the city?
We do most of our work in the city. We tended, when Commercial Bay is a good example, when that was happening, that obviously got filled up got filled up. So we managed at that time to do a lot of the spaces where people had moved out of, and a lot of the fit out companies were sort of flat out at Commercial Bay, so we were able to do things in behind them. You know, there's always a place.
Yeah, that's smart though, because those places are all like empty now, needs to be filled.
Oh, exactly, yeah.
So you guys did a lot of the make good on that sort of stuff as well?
Yeah,
or?
we did a lot of make goods when people were moving into Commercial Bay. Yeah, that was a real common thing for us to do for a year or two, and we managed to avoid the mayhem of the office part. We did a couple of retail places at Commercial Bay. They were interesting enough, but we didn't have to go into the tower. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on like because obviously in the construction industry it's very visual, especially in the residential space or in the commercial space too.
Yeah.
A lot of photos, you know, look at Instagram.
Yeah.
Things look very shiny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What is your thoughts on finding, you know, the sexy work versus the non-sexy work? Because you've got your sexy work, which is a beautiful new modern fit out. You can get some really nice photography taken on that.
Yep.
But then you also have like a make good where you just have to like recarpet, fix the walls up. You know, which ones are most profitable and which ones do you like? And
I have a real thing about make goods and base builds. There's lots of reasons, all my learnings. They're definitely not exciting. We actually found some photos. We're looking at project photos recently. We found some photos about some base builds we've done, professional photos, and we needed them for a client to say, well, we can do base builds, so we're going to have to show them these photos. They're definitely more profitable because they're less detailed, they're quicker, and they generally lead to a fit out.
yeah,
They've still got to be fitted out at some stage. So there's a bit of a chain reaction there, and I like turning things into refurbishing things. You know, you can make something look really good. Yeah. From what it was, and you get to add value for the person who's your client. It's normally a landlord, so they want to see the place be presented the best it can, and it certainly probably wasn't going to start like that.
Yeah. What's your sort of approach to? So how do you get new work? Is it all competitive tenders, or is it some negotiated? Or
yeah, we do a mixture of both. We've got one client that we negotiate quite a bit of work with. We also tender work with that client for the bigger stuff.
And is that mostly like designers, architects, like a company that you're doing it for?
So we work with a company. We work with one landlord company that owns quite a lot of buildings. So there's a lot of repeat work there.
Cool.
They use one particular architect, and that architect also gets us involved in other projects for other people. And there's project management companies that we do hire more expensive office fit outs where the project sort of budget can handle the extra fee of a project manager. So that's reasonably common. We're just busy going through a bit of a sort of a growth phase at the moment to try and get in front of new people. And obviously having photos, proof is a better word. Having a good reputation is really important. Yeah. And also I think naming some of the people you've worked with, and the industry is pretty small, so people tend to know, you know,
Brand association.
yeah, brand, yeah, and just so I've worked for so and so, I've worked for so and so. Oh, okay, well that's okay. You know, it could go the other way, but I don't think we've worked for those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's like the yeah, no, I won't mention that actually. I'll talk about that afterwards. But I'm always interested to know how you lead your people. What's your leadership style? You've been in the game 15 years and built, and you've run other businesses beforehand and been in leadership positions. As you get a bit older, we all get a bit wiser. You know, what have you learned over the years in terms of leadership, leading a team, keeping them on track, motivated, but some people argue you shouldn't be keeping your team motivated. They should motivate themselves.
yeah.
But what's your sort of leadership style?
That's a good question. Leadership style is to lead by example, definitely. Probably fits in the leadership thing. Having young people, being able to meld them and say, this is how we do it, fits in the same place. Giving people opportunities. An electrician I used to work with, he always had a lot of young apprentices coming through, and I'd always say, you've got some good quality people. And he used to say to me, sometimes you just got to throw them in the deep end, and I don't think I'm perhaps guilty of that, but I do remember him saying that. I still like to keep control and I like to oversee the people, but it's nice to give them the opportunity to sort of show their skills and bring them up. Not very often have I had people come into my office, I've had a few, that are experienced. So I've got to meld them.
Yeah. Your system and your ethos
But I lead with really high standards. And I also lead, I think, by doing the right thing. When something comes into the office, because most things are back in the office, a conversation or an email, and small office, I think everyone gets to hear it. When someone has to make a decision, they make the right decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you quite close with your staff? Do you guys do anything that helps to build culture or anything like that?
Yeah, we do. We try and do a big Christmas party and a big mid-year thing, which we're in the process of doing now, just to keep everyone sort of together and understand that we are a team. Yeah. I've got quite a few of my staff been with me a long time, and they've some of them have got families now, so it's really nice. We've all been a stage where I had so many young people that I was the only person with kids.
Yeah,
but that's changed now. Yeah.
In terms of the business itself, are you able to step away? Can you go on a month holiday and everything runs without you?
Only just did that this year. Did that
Cool.
4 weeks ago. I had 2.5 weeks overseas. Came back and best holiday I've ever had for 2 reasons. It was a good holiday, and there was nothing on my desk to deal with. Yep, only my own things I hadn't finished.
Yeah.
No one else had said, "Oh, you need to fix this." So it's taken a long time.
Yeah, because how did you sort of make those transition? Like, did you just get to a point where you're just sick and tired of everything revolving around you, and you sort of see on the horizon, like, I'm just bought myself a job here, and then is that kind of, or what made you kind of make those changes? Because we've all kind of been there. You kind of just go like, oh, I don't want to run this business like this for the next 10 years. Is it kind of like that?
Yeah, well, I had a massive growth period in COVID, so we would have been in 2019, 2020, we would have been about the same size as we are now, 12 people, and then we got up to 54.
Shit.
In the middle of COVID. I think it was 18 cars. My wife came in to help me, which was really great. She came in for a couple of years, and then there was always, hey, I'm doing an insurance claim every week for a car, But yeah, that's going to be a bit sick of that. So that was part of the reason I made the decision. I think I don't really use the word luck, but I will use it. I timed that right to go, right, we need to get this down a bit when the industry out the back of COVID.
Yeah.
I literally got rid of all my assets, the vehicles and things before everyone else wanted to. Had a bit of awesome natural attrition and staff. A lot of the builders were carpenters, were contractors, the carpenters, so that projects just came to an end. But it was definitely a conscious decision to downsize. Yeah, because of the stress, not just the car crash, just the rest of the stuff.
Yeah. Because you look at your overheads bill, and it does probably get to a point where it's just like, my full-time job is just to keep all these people busy.
Yep.
And if I'm lucky, I'll make something on top.
Yep.
Was that sort of part of it as well?
That was part of it. Yeah, the turnover. When my turnover was double what it is now, I made the exact same amount of money.
Yeah.
And the proof's in the pudding when you see all the numbers.
Yeah. And then with that downsizing, you also started working hard on making sure that people are in leadership positions and you can step out.
That's exactly right. And so the other part of that to get to the de-stressed stage is to choose the right people. You know, we're all guilty in COVID of choosing anyone that was available. Everyone did that, probably not just our industry.
Yeah.
But made really conscious decisions from that point.
Yeah.
Everyone in my office now did not come from a recruiter.
Right.
I've got the son of my partner at my law firm. I've got a neighbour. I've got an ex-employee who came to me years ago who was my plumber. I've got someone who was the office manager of a client, and my site manager, ex-apprentice. And he was someone that emailed me 8 years ago and said, "Can I have a job?" And I thought, well, if someone's got enough balls to literally do that, yeah, come and have an interview. I probably didn't need an apprentice, but
yeah. So when you hire, what do you look at? What are the you got red flags, you got green flags. Like, what are the green flags you look at when you hire?
I've got a thing for people that have a passion for anything, for something. You know, one of the guys that works for me now is an extremely good baseballer.
Right.
He has been since he was a kid, you know, and you're like, you've got a passion, you're good at that. I look for some family values. Definitely a big thing for me. Ask people their upbringing, you know, what their mum and dad sort of did for a living, how they, not dissimilar to some of the questions you've asked me. Bit of confidence, not too much. Yeah. Red flags, you know, we know the joke about the guy that can spin the hammer around his finger.
Yeah.
The builder, can you do that? And he goes, yeah. And you go, yeah. You can piss off because obviously you don't do any work.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Never heard that one. Yeah, the passion one's kind of important. I kind of have that as well, within at our office, you know, in our business. It's kind of like, got to have like a little bit of, it's better for them to be like, have like a lot of energy, and you have to like knock them back sometimes or direct it sometimes. It's better to try to start a fire underneath them, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very that's very difficult.
You know, it's better for them that they overstep sometimes, and you know, versus kind of like, come on, wake up, you know, what are we doing? You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So having like a bit of oomph is kind of like important as well. In terms of the numbers, like, obviously you've been around long enough. I assume you kind of know your overheads to the T, and you've done it over and over and over. And now that you've downsized, you probably with a smile know what your overheads are now compared to when it was double the size.
Yeah.
What are the numbers that you look at that are important to you to kind of go, yeah, we're on track?
Yep, definitely overhead. I treat it a little bit different to a lot of people. I don't class the builders as overhead because I've always got something for them to do. I'll always recover their cost.
Yeah, they're like an asset almost.
Yeah, they're a bit of a luxury, and I don't code them to overhead either because I just don't need to. I look at the bank balance. Every so often I'll look at the profit and loss. Liabilities, you know, we own a lot of vehicles, so we like to keep that in track, not own too many of those anymore.
What's the reason behind owning so many vehicles? Like, because I know obviously, maybe, I don't know, is it like a brand perception thing? Is it like, why do you have so many vehicles on the road? It seems like a high overhead.
It certainly has become a bit of an expectation. You know, you need to give me a vehicle to do my job. I've got a bit of an old school mentality that I took from my first boss, because I was given a company car for that second year of my cadetship. If I give someone a car, there's no reason for them not to do what I ask. You can give someone a car allowance, and then you'll find that haven't had this experience, but it certainly stuck with me. The lesson, after a couple of years, they've forgotten that you've given them a car allowance, and can you run over and do that? And they'll just sit there because they have to put their own petrol in the car.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not really their own petrol because there's a car allowance in the mix here somewhere.
Yeah, but it's kind of like forgotten and lost in the.
But so by giving people vehicles, you're just like, everything happens. There's no excuse for something not to physically happen. We've got a truck that runs around, does all our deliveries, does all our rubbish removal. We've got extremely tidy sites because we've got no excuse not to get the rubbish out. The truck is literally a 9 cubic meter skip bin on wheels. Yeah.
Perfect. So that's okay. Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's the same mentality with like employees versus like contractors, and there's a slight nuance around what expectation.
Yeah.
And not that you like own them or anything like that, but you kind of there's whatever word you want to use. It's kind of like a bit more like there's a different expectation.
Yeah. There's you just expect a bit more buy-in.
Yeah. More buy-in. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
If you look at other, I'm always kind of interested to about this question. Thinking about this in the shower this morning. Skill set versus mindset. When you look at a lot of builders, they start with the van and the apprentice and the dog, or like you started with the utes on ticket and a couple of credit cards, and now to this point where you are now. Some people stay there longer. Some people kind of, graduate to that next phase, and then that next phase, and then that next phase. Is it a mindset gap or a skill set gap, do you feel, that's the biggest contributor to people not getting ahead?
Mindset.
Elaborate for me. Why you say that?
Because I think you can teach someone a skill set. A bit like back to the question you asked about the red flags in an interview. You can, if someone's got the right attitude, this is probably a bit of a cliche, but you can teach someone to go through an apprenticeship and become a carpenter if they've got the right mindset. And I've known earlier in my career, I knew a lot of really skilled subcontractors build you the most beautiful item you asked for, have no money because they hadn't sent you the invoice for 3 months, So that one sticks with me quite a bit. I haven't got any money. And then you sort of start going through your own paperwork and you go, you haven't sent me this, haven't sent me that. But I think if you have the right mindset, you can battle past the skill set. Yeah.
And what are some of the mindset changes that you've had to go through that sort of helped you? Because that's really important to you getting into business, and there's like the accounts and the zero and then this and that, but like even like higher than that, like in the way that you see the world and approach business and relationships and getting ahead and all of that. What's the mindset shift that you had to go through from when you started to like now?
You have to take on board that there's two sides to the coin. There's two sides to everything. You can't just be, this is the contract, this is what it says. You've got to go, well, this is what they think should happen, which leads into what I've sort of repeated a few times about doing the right thing.
It's like kind of like more of like a long-term mentality rather than like
absolute long-term mentality. I've seen it. I don't see it too often anymore, but through the last 15 years, a few subcontractors that have come and gone because they're only in it for that job. Definitely. And then they'll tend to wonder why they don't hear from me again. That seems to be the way I operate. I was like, right, well, I figured that out. Yep, I paid you, and that's it. We're good. The other mindset thing, sorry, I had one there, is that I, as a tradesman, couldn't control all the quality. You have to let some things go, but you have to learn to effectively communicate your expectations of not how you would do it, because I know that every tradesman, particularly carpenters, will approach things differently, but the expectation of what it should look like when it's done. Or broader than that, and that fits in the efficiency piece, I think, a little bit. I'm a big believer in the process as well. We can all, a bit like the shop fitting, we can all make the shop look good, but how did we get it to making it look that good? How did we treat the people on the way? How do we treat the client? How do we treat the subbies? That's a big part of it. You can't control it, but you've got to set your expectations.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, especially for builders who are very logical,
Yep.
very practical, start working with their hands.
Yep.
And then they have to transition to a point where they have to literally let go and surrender to the process. And obviously you can still minimize the risks there but you got to have to let go at some point. Yep. And also managing, I've kind of probably learned that as well recently as well. It's just like managing the client's expectations a bit better.
Yep.
Because when you're young and you sort of promise the world and you want it to be perfect and you just assume everything's going to go perfect and that's what you sell to them.
Yep. Yeah.
This is what's going to happen. It's going to be perfect. Don't worry, we're going to make it. But it just, even in business and reality, everything's just not going to go to plan always.
Yep.
It's just, and not having so many sleepless nights when it doesn't sometimes,
Yeah, that's right. And I had plenty of sleepless nights in my first business, when I felt the pressure of being a business owner, part owner. I had some sleepless nights. I had one that comes to mind. My mother and sister had come to stay with me. I lived by myself at the time, and I woke up in the morning. I hadn't had any sleep, and I sort of said, they were from Hawke's Bay, I said, "You're going to have to go home. I can't I can't sort of entertain you, per se, and I've got to get this project done." So letting go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has there been a time in you running your business where you've burnt yourself out and you just sort of wanted to, even to a point where you just wanted to give up? You said enough.
There have been points, where you've got to you're like, why am I doing this? You really feel as though you're banging your head against a brick wall, I think. Yep, there's certainly been times, not in recent times, but I've had some ups and downs like anyone in business. The ups are nice, the ones you take photos of. I mentioned to you earlier, we did a bit of high-end residential. We decided in COVID to get into some high-end residential because people were doing that, the disposable income, I guess you'd call it, renovations. And I thought that I'd take my fixed price model from commercial work over to this residential style work. Some new builds, some really nice big renos.
And this is the first time ever you've done residential at the time?
Yeah, for clients, done a bit for myself and over the years, not physically, but first time we've done residential for clients. Right. And I knew the pitfalls of other people, the emotions involved, I knew them all, but still did it anyway. Had some big financial hits during that. The kind of years where you get a tax refund rather than have to pay the tax man any money. Big lessons from that.
And were there big, you lost some money on some projects?
Some projects, like one person's house probably cost me between $300 and $400 to build his house. So he's got a very nice house.
So how do you bounce back from that? Do you just kind of go, oh, yep, 400, cool, I'll just go home now and have a great night with the family?
I guess you have a sort of robust balance sheet. You don't do, this is a great business sort of conversation. Never done crazy things with any of the profits that I've made in the previous years. So you have you just have a place where you can go, I don't want to suck that up, but I've got no choice. It's not going to get me, from a financial sense. And on a personal level, my mother taught me you never give up. We don't quit anything. My mother didn't send me to this. This is a bit of a joke at our house, but my mother didn't send me to karate or things that I clearly didn't want to do, but the ones that she thought that I might want to do, and I had a inkling of, you should do it. We saw it through to the end. Yeah.
So never quit. You just kind of, it wasn't even an option.
No, wasn't an option. No way. And I've heard you ask these questions before. When you have a family, that completely changes everything. Even back to the leadership style, that completely changes. Yeah.
How has that changed? How old are your kids?
I've got a 13-year-old boy and an 8-year-old boy.
Cool.
So yeah, it softens you. It softens you with subbies, with staff. You're like, no. I was probably well known earlier in my site management career for being a yeller, yelling down the phone, making some pretty bold statements. But now I tend to go and be devil's advocate and go, maybe, what's the word? What's the word I'd say that? I will show my disappointment in what's happened in a completely different way. Use some magical words rather than some yelling. Yeah.
It's funny when you have young kids and you start to see the world a bit differently. It's kind of like the whole new world. The same way that the mall, those family bathrooms in the mall opens up to you that you didn't know existed. When you have little kids.
We can go in here.
The doors open up and you're like, what? I never knew this existed. So
that's a good one.
That's in a literal sense, but in a figurative sense, it's the same, right? The whole world, a whole new world opens up in the way that you see it, and you probably tend to, even other young people, right? You treat them more like, you almost come with like a fatherly energy than you come from like a ego energy and stuff.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah,
it definitely is different. So how do you deal? So when you had burnout and even with the family stuff, and you're just over it, I assume. Have you ever gone through have you ever been like depressed or anything like that?
I've been stressed to a point when I had my probably both my business partnerships that dissolved, if that's the word we want to use. I've certainly been a bit down in the doldrums. I've been very lucky that my wife was with me for both of those times, so that's probably a pretty decent duration there. So that support and those sort of magical words, repeated magical words, not just one conversation, just repeated conversations, and a big soundboard. That's been a big part of it.
So what did your wife tell you that was helpful?
That you'll get to the end of this. This won't go on forever. I always think about it when I see some bad press for someone in the news, and I'm sure that's what their press office is sort of saying. This will blow over, and of course it does. So that's what my wife was one of the big secrets she said, and much as the advice and the strategic advice to get through those times, the problem times. Do this, you should do this, you should do that. Because when you're a detailed person, I can be guilty of just not being strategic about it at all, just wanting to go straight to the detail, too much detail maybe, and want to see the end of it. Yeah.
So who do you turn to in that time? Obviously you got your wife. If you have any mentors over the years, or do you? I'm kind of trying to get to figure out when people are stressed out, and they are over it, and they don't. Because sometimes if you hit a wall, you hit a wall. Even the things that you used to enjoy, you just don't enjoy anymore, and you almost just I just don't have any. I don't want to do any of this. Even the stuff that you used to find really exciting and stuff, you're just done.
Yep.
What's the next right thing to do after that?
That's a good one. That certainly happened to me after the high-end residential work. I used to dive into and love all the house magazines and residential architecture. I've still got few subscriptions rolling through that I think my wife looks at, but I kind of refuse to look at them because it's just a bad experience that stuck with me. I never thought that would happen. I've been looking at those magazines since I was an apprentice, aspiring to build or own one of those houses. And now it's like, oh, yep.
Yeah.
So that definitely does happen. My passion is riding road bikes, bike racing.
Cool.
Don't race a lot, but just getting out there, the old cliche of a bit of adrenaline for stress release, that definitely works. And I think you've just got to be strategic, and you've got to realize there's a future, and you've got to be in it. You know, you can't run away from it. That's the bit that stuck with me.
Yeah, and like you say, you go road bikes, so you kind of break the pattern a little bit, like change it up. Like I do something. Don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, but go and do something different. Like change, go for a hike or do that, or I think that is good advice. I think just kind of go back to the things that you do enjoy, that's outside of work and outside of work.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, looking at the magazines, all I could see was projects. I couldn't see these are beautiful houses. They're visually attractive. I could just say, oh, how'd they do that? They must have had a nightmare doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not quite ready yet to pick that magazine up, and that's fine.
Yeah.
We've literally run out of time.
Okay.
Hamish, I think we can probably talk for like another, a few hours, and there's so many different topics that I still wanted to get into. I'm kind of gutted, but thanks for coming on.
Okay.
I really appreciate it.
Yep.
And I had fun. Did you have fun?
I did. I've enjoyed it, and I'm surprised all that time's gone so quickly too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, and I'm sure there'll be at least one person that would have got a lot out of this, if not more. So cheers.
Okay. Thanks, Brad.
That's it for today's episode, and thanks again to Forte for making this week's episode possible. If you're after timber surfaces that don't just look beautiful but are built to endure, Forte is leading the way with a focus on sustainability and craftsmanship and unparalleled performance. They're helping bring ambitious projects to life across interiors and exteriors.